Coming up, we spend our last episode of the month of January ranking the top 10 transfer portal additions that LSU football and Lane Kiffin have made to its 2026 roster over the past month. Plus, LSU women's basketball keeps rolling with their sixth straight win in SEC play over the University of Arkansas. Welcome to a brand new edition of the Babin on the Bayou show, hosted by yours truly, Justin Babin Jr. I hope you've had a great week so far. It is Friday, January 30th, 2026. I hope you and yours have had an awesome week and are planning to have an awesome weekend. It is going to be the second weekend in a row in Baton Rouge with frigid temps, especially on Saturday tomorrow. So stay warm, stay safe, and I hope you have a great weekend as well. Look, today we are going to save our LSU baseball talk. We're going to save our LSU baseball talk for next week. We'll spend the whole week previewing, doing some more preview stuff. The show's going to be a little bit shorter today because I got to get out of here. I'm going to the LSU baseball scrimmage this afternoon, or at least that's my plan, so I got to get out of here quick. So, going to be a little bit of a shorter show today, but let's get into some LSU football talk. So, a recruiting update for LSU football. We talked early in the week about how this weekend the number one cornerback in America for the class of 2027 and Joshua Dobson out of North Carolina is visiting Baton Rouge, visiting LSU's campus this weekend. Of course, LSU and Corey Raymond signed the number one cornerback in America in DJ Pickett last year, and now they're trying to do the same thing with the number one cornerback in the nation for 2027. And then the Tigers have another visit scheduled for four-star athlete Braylon Calais out of Cecilia High School in Louisiana. So another visit scheduled for Braylon Calais as well out of Cecilia. Obviously, over the past 2 weeks, LSU, Lane Kiffin, and the coaching staff, since the portal has closed, has been on the recruiting trail, especially visiting local high schools all around the state of Louisiana to visit with recruits like Easton Royal, the number one wide receiver in America for the 2027 class, offensive lineman Albert Simeon, another top wide receiver in Miguel Whitley. In 2026, LSU signed three of the top five high school players in the state of Louisiana. LSU signed those in 2026 in Lamar Brown, Richard Anderson, and offensive lineman Bryson Martinez. So LSU still on the recruiting trail. Look out for the number one cornerback in America and Joshua Dobson out of North Carolina and Braylon Calais, four-star athlete out of Cecilia, both with visits to Baton Rouge this weekend. I wanted to kind of cap off our talk. This is the last episode of the month of January for the Babin on the Bayou show. So I wanted to give my list of the top 10 transfer additions that LSU has made over the past month in the transfer portal, which it's hard to do, right? Because when I compile this list, I'm thinking who's going to contribute right away in 2026 and be a real key part of this roster. So that's what we're thinking about. But you signed over 40 portal prospects out of the portal, a lot of overturn in this roster, and more than 10 guys out of this portal class are going to contribute to this roster. But this is my top 10. The top three are pretty obvious because they're all top 5 overall prospects in this past portal cycle. We'll start with Sam Leavitt as number one. Obviously, he's the most important, arguably, because he's going to be QB1. He's going to be your guy. He's going to be your starting quarterback in 2026, coming over from Arizona State after 2 very successful seasons at ASU, the main one being in 2024, leading them to a Big 12 title and a CFP playoff appearance. So, look, I'm excited for Sam Leavitt, the number one overall prospect in this past portal cycle, and he's got a lot of mobility. He's put up really good numbers, had really good success for Arizona State, especially in that 2024 season, and he's going to be your guy in 2026 that Lane Kiffin's going to. He fits the Lane Kiffin style of mold with his mobility, with his really dual threat ability as well, which we've talked about. And it's big because you started the transfer portal, entered the transfer portal with no scholarship quarterbacks on your roster, and now you have 3, so that's really big. At number 2 is Jordan Seaton from Colorado, another top 5 overall prospect in this year's portal cycle, the number one offensive lineman in this year's portal cycle, likely first round pick in next year's NFL draft in 2027. Gonna be your starting left tackle in 2026. Huge, huge, huge to pick up Jordan Seaton, I believe, last Friday. So it's been hard to believe it's been 7 days since you picked up Jordan Seaton, but you beat out top programs in the country like Oregon and Miami for Jordan Seaton's commitment. I mean, there's been plenty of years in the past where LSU has been involved in these and not won out against top programs in the country like Oregon and Miami, but you've just had so much success since Lane Kiffin has come here. You just keep winning, and Jordan Seaton was definitely one of your biggest wins of the portal class, because he's going to be your starting left tackle, number one offensive lineman in this year's portal cycle, and one of the best offensive linemen in the country. Number 3 is going to be edge rusher Prince Will Uman-Mielen from Ole Miss. Number one edge rusher out of this year's portal cycle, was third in the SEC in sacks with 9 sacks in 2025. We've talked about it before. If there was one thing that you could have done better on defense in 2025, even though I think you had an exceptional year on defense in 2025, I think your pass rush could be a little bit better. The guys you've added are going to make that better, and especially Prince Will and Mielen. I love what you've done on the defensive line as a whole in the portal, but especially picking up, a guy who is top 3 in the SEC in sacks and had a standout season as an edge rusher at Ole Miss in 2025. That's huge. And then after the top 3, all of those top 3 are top 5 portal prospects overall, according to Rivals in this past year's portal cycle. But number 4 for me personally is Jace Brown, the wide receiver out of Kansas State. I love the potential of Jace Brown in this Lane Kiffin offense. I think he's going to be your wide receiver 1 this season. In 3 seasons as a Kansas State Wildcat, he put up close to 2,000 total yards. He was the fastest Kansas State wide receiver in history to eclipse 1,000 yards in their career with Kansas State. I love Jace Brown's potential. I think you added a ton of receivers. You added 8 receivers in this transfer portal cycle, and I'm really excited for a lot of them. But I think if I had to take a shot at who I'm most excited for at receiver, I love the addition of Jace Brown, and he comes in at number 4 on this list. Number 5 is another edge rusher in Jordan Ross, who comes over from Tennessee. Obviously, a former 5-star, very highly touted when he came out of high school. Spent 2 seasons at Tennessee where he produced a little bit, maybe not as much as he wanted or he was expecting with, how highly touted he was coming out of high school. But Jordan Ross has immense talent. He's a huge athlete. He's a great athlete. Tremendous athleticism. He was a top 10 edge rusher in this year's portal cycle. And I think the combination of him, Gabe Relaford, and Prince William Mielen, if, we saw Kevin Peoples really tap in fully to the potential of Braden Swinson and Savion Jones in 2024. And if he could do the same thing with an athlete, the type of athlete that Jordan Ross is, Jordan Ross can really take that next step in his development under Kevin Peoples in 2026 and really be a key contributor on this defensive line for the Fighting Tigers of LSU. Ty Benefield, safety transfer coming over from Boise State, comes in at 6 on this list for me. I love the potential of Ty Benefield. I love this safety room. Really, the depth you have with the top 4 guys and the returnees and Spears and Cooley, and then you bring in Ty Benefield and Fahim Delane over from Ohio State. I love Ty Benefield. He was a All-Mountain West first-team conference selection in 2025. He recorded over 230 tackles in 3 years as a Boise State Bronco. I love Ty Benefield's potential in this defense, kind of filling that A.J. Halsey role. He's just a really solid tackler. Now, he's not as sure a tackler as A.J. Halsey was for you in 2025, but I really like the potential of Ty Benefield in this defense. That's why he comes in at number 6. At number 7 is guard transfer from Maryland in Alu Ba. I mentioned it before. I think you have Braylon Moore as your starting center and Jordan Seaton as your starting left tackle in 2026. But the more I look at it, Alu Ba started 23 consecutive games at guard for Maryland. So with his experience in Big Ten Power Forward conference play, I like his potential. I think he's going to wind up being one of your starting guards in 2026. Just with his experience, with his size at 6'6" and 327 pounds. I think Aluba, he's a really good pass blocker according to PFF as well. So I like Aluba's potential to nab one of those starting guard spots. So he comes in at number 7 on this list. And then at number 8, linebacker from Ole Miss, T.J. Daugherty. T.J. Daugherty was the SEC leader in tackles in 2025, recording 98 tackles to lead the SEC in 2025. I talked about it. You were going to need to bring in a really solid linebacker to be the starting linebacker opposite Whit Weeks in 2026, because besides Whit Weeks, you have a lot of young and inexperienced guys that need to develop, and you brought in that guy to be the linebacker, the starter opposite Whit Weeks and T.J. Daugherty, who was a tackle machine at Ole Miss, leading the SEC in tackles in 2025. At number 9 is Ohio State safety Fahim Delane. Again, I love the safety room with the depth that you have there. Delane, the younger brother of Mansour Delane, who was the number 1 cornerback in the nation in 2025 for LSU, best corner in the nation for LSU. But I really like Fahim Delane. I really love the physicality and violence that safety Fahim Delane brings. He loves, attacking opposing offensive players at the point of attack and really getting them down to the ground. And I really like Fahim Delane and his the depth that he adds and the physicality that he adds to this LSU defense. I kind of cheated at number 10 because I mentioned it before when we talked about Jace Brown. You have all these receivers that you brought in. A lot of them are going to contribute and be key contributors to this offense in 2026, excuse me. So I do like what you have at receiver. So for number 10, I included 2 receivers, and Eugene Wilson from Florida and Winston Watkins Jr. from Ole Miss. I mean, you talk about Eugene Wilson from Florida, a former 5-star coming out of high school and a freshman All-American at Florida. Now, he did struggle with injuries and in terms of health at Florida, but when he was healthy, he was a real key contributor and standout player for the Gators. And then Winston Watkins in his freshman year at Ole Miss was really relied upon by Charlie Weiss Jr. and Lane Kiffin early, caught 26 passes for 373 receiving yards and a touchdown in 15 games in 2025 as a freshman for the Rebels, 15.1 yards per catch. So I could have included Jackson Harris on here. I could have included Trey Brown on here, but Jace Brown comes in at number 4. And then at number 10, I kind of cheated by including 2 receivers in Eugene Wilson from Florida and Winnie Watkins from Ole Miss. And then an honorable mention is USC quarterback transfer Hassan Longstreet. And he's an honorable mention because you're hoping he doesn't have to play that much in 2026 if all things go right for Sam Leavitt as a starter for LSU in 2026. You're hoping that Longstreet and Landon Clark can be your options for QB1 in 2027, along with Peyton Houston, who you're going to bring in the 2027 freshman class. Peyton Houston, a 4-star, has already committed to come to LSU next year for the 2027 class. So really, you're hoping Longstreet he's got a rocket for an arm. He was a former 5-star coming out of high school in 2025, a top 3 quarterback in the country coming out of 2025, and with the proper development under Charlie Weiss and Lane Kiffin, you're really hoping that Hassan Longstreet can be a quarterback for the future for the Tigers in 2027 and beyond. So that concludes my list of the top 10 transfer portal additions that Lane Kiffin and this LSU football staff have made to the roster for 2026 over this last month, the month of January. Again, the line came out for LSU's opening game September 5th of this year against Clemson in Tiger Stadium, and LSU is favored by 10.5 over Clemson, which is a big line, but it's showing you that not only I've mentioned it before, the local media has mentioned it, national media has mentioned it, there's real playoff expectations, and the expectation with this roster is that in 2026, yes, in Lane Kiffin's first year, you need to contend for the playoffs. You should contend for the playoffs. You don't invest the money you invested, the resources you invested to get the number one portal class in the country. You don't do this to go 7-5 or 8-4 in a rebuild year. You do this to contend in year one for a playoff spot. So you've done a phenomenal job in the month of January, really over the last 2 months since Lane Kiffin came on board to be the new head man on December 1st, I believe. Just what a magnificent job they've done at assembling a roster that is going to have real high playoff expectations going into 2026. All right, now let me take the opportunity to tell you about our wonderful daily sponsors here at the Babin on the Bayou show and the team over at Shield Heating and Cooling. We love the team at Shield Heating and Cooling. I've talked about it before. Team of experts with decades of experience as experts in the AC industry. I love you guys. I love my audience. I want to reward you for faithfully tuning into the show. So if you call the team over at Shield Heating and Cooling today, the number 225-46-BAYOU, 225-46-BAYOU, BAYOU. You call the team at Shield Heating and Cooling today. Tell them you heard about them from the Babin on the Bayou show, and I'll be giving away completely free AC system clean-in checks for every AC system in your home, whether that's one AC system in your home or 5 AC systems in your home. It doesn't matter. Call the wonderful team of the best team in the business over at Shield Heating and Cooling at the number 225-46-BAYOU today. BAYOU. Call them at that number today. Tell them you heard about them from this show. And I'm giving away completely free to you, saving you money, free AC system cleaning checks for every AC system in your home. We love the team over at Shield Heating and Cooling, and we really, really appreciate them for being the title sponsors of this show. That's Shield Heating and Cooling, your local comfort defenders. And that number is 225-46-BAYOU. All right, the last thing we want to do today is we want to talk about LSU women's basketball keeps on a roll with last night scoring their 6th straight win in SEC play Thursday night over Arkansas by a final score of 92-70. Arkansas, one of the worst teams in the SEC. We can be honest about that. They were 0-6. They were winless coming into this game last night, and now they're 0-7 in SEC play. If we're honest, it was kind of a sluggish and shaky first half for the Tigers at the start. The game was tied after the first quarter at 22-22, and then LSU only had a 3-point lead going into halftime against arguably the worst team in the SEC, a team that LSU was favored by 40 plus points against coming into this game. Kim Mulkey talked about at post-game how she wasn't happy with the effort of this team in the first half, but really LSU was able to pull away from a much lesser talented team in the second half of this game, but Kim Mulkey was not happy about the effort that LSU played with in the first half. Now, you're going to have games like this against lesser competition. I don't know if it was underestimating Arkansas as their competition as one of the worst teams in SEC play to this point, but LSU was able to pull away in the second half. Led by Michaela Williams and Flau'jae Johnson, who led the team in scoring. Both Flau'jae and Michaela had 17 points apiece in this game. I thought Arkansas actually did a good job in terms of production from three-point range. They did a really good job of shooting the three ball in this game, and I felt like watching it, that's what kept them in this game early and often. But with that said, Mulkey, Coach Mulkey made a statement 4 minutes into this game when she didn't like how her starting five came out, how they played early in this game. So what she did is 4 minutes into the first quarter of this game, she subbed out all 5 of her starters and put in a whole brand new 5 that came off the bench. And what that showed me is, one, yes, you didn't like how the starters played early in that game last night. Now they turned it around in the second half and really pulled away. You still have all the confidence in the world in this team, number 6 team in the country, 6-2 in SEC play with 6 straight wins in conference play. But what it shows me, LSU has real depth on this team in terms of talent. One of the best benches in the country in terms of production, in terms of what they do. Another point to that, to add on to that, is that 6 LSU players finished scoring in the double figures. It feels like that happens every single night. You have 5 or 6 LSU players scoring in the double digits, which shows you the depth that you have on this team. Not only your starting 5, but also your bench players as well. I've talked a lot about how I've been impressed by the backcourt. Of course, you have your leaders of the team and backcourt players like Michaela Williams, Flau'jae Johnson, Malaysia Fulwiley, Jada Richard as well. But the front court can play as well. And really, 2 players stood out to me last night that I thought played very, very well, specifically in Kate Koval and Grace Knox in the front court. I think they both did a great job all game of attacking the boards all night. Grace Knox finished with 12 points and 5 rebounds, including 4 offensive rebounds. And then Kate Koval had 12 points as well, but she finished with a whopping 15 rebounds, including 5 offensive rebounds. So look, a really great job from both Koval and Knox all night of attacking the boards and really dominating the boards all night. Maybe Kate Koval's best game that she's played this season. So you have a great backcourt. Your leaders in the backcourt, we've talked about that before. But women like Kate Koval, Grace Knox, and Amaya Joyner, they can play as well, and they produce as well this season. You have a great all-around team, one of the best teams in the country. Again, top 6 team in the nation, and a team that can definitely, if they put it all together, can definitely contend for a national championship in March. So shaky first half, but overall you handled your business in the second half, ended up pulling away and winning the game by 22 points. The Tigers' next game is Sunday in the PMAC at home against Alabama. Alabama is number 24 ranked team in the nation, and it is an early tip-off on Sunday as LSU gets started. The game starts at 11 a.m. Sunday on the SEC Network. LSU women's basketball hosting Alabama, the number 24 team in the nation. So that'll be another good top 25 matchup to pay attention to. Again, that's a very early tip-off at 11 a.m. on the SEC Network. And then I'll just say men's basketball does play tomorrow, Saturday, at noon at South Carolina. At noon on the SEC Network. I don't want to talk about that much. We talked about it yesterday. That Mississippi State loss was ugly, and the season is over for Matt McMahon and the Tigers pretty much. But look, I'm excited. It's been a great first month, great January for us here at Babin on the Bayou. I thank you folks so much for tuning in to the show. That's all I have for the show today. Super excited about what LSU football has done in the transfer portal. Again, they're going to be a real playoff contending team in Lane Kiffin's first year in 2026. Women's basketball keeps rolling. They got every opportunity in the world to compete for a natty. Kim Mulkey's second natty at LSU in March of this year. And then we didn't talk about LSU baseball today. I wanted to, but I got to get out of here and get to the scrimmage. I want to go see the scrimmage today for LSU baseball that's open to the public. And we'll continue with more of our preview for LSU baseball next week, so don't you guys worry. But I thank you so much, folks, for tuning into the show. Remember, like the video, share the video, put your thoughts in the comments down below. Subscribe to the YouTube channel if you're not already subscribed. Tell a friend about the show, about the Babin on the Bayou show. And thank you, folks, so much for tuning in. I hope you have a great weekend. And remember, God bless, go Tigers, and have a great one.